This is the 5 tech things that you should know about, episode number 34, actually episode 34, for April 16th, 2010, brought to you by Mozicom. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers here, www.tvazine in association with geekazine.com. 608-205-4378 is the phone number. Geekazine@gmail.com is the email address. You can call me or email me. Check out any of the websites over at Geekazine, Dorkazine, Sportazine, now Wikazine for all your wiki needs over on the Geekazine network. We've got a lot more coming, including the Day in Tech History. We just revamped that part of the site. Check that out over at www.dayintechhistory.com. We do that podcast every single day. Plus the Geekazine podcast once a week, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including the 5 tech things. And you can also find us on techpodcast.tv. If it's tech and it's video, it's here. And that's over at www.techpodcast.tv. Of course, we are a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it is tech, it is here. This show would not be possible without the help from our sponsors, and one of our sponsors is Mozi.com. I back Mozi.com because you should back your files. You should back your pictures, you should back your videos, you should back your audio. And there's no reason why you shouldn't. In today's date and time, when everything is storing on the computers, you want to be able to back that up. You want to be able to pull that up if you need to, especially since it's tax time. Let's say all your tax documents went bye-bye. That's not good. That's why you need Mozi.com. You get Mozi Home. It gives you the ability to back up the whole computer, unlimited upload to their offsite server. So all the information is not even in the house. So if you have a fire, if you have a flood, if you have a tornado, if you have the tax man cometh, all your files are safe because they're off-site. They have a 2 gig option, which is absolutely free. You can give it a try, and if you like it, you should check it out, Mozi.com. Don't forget this geek over here. Use the promo code GEEK, and you'll get an additional 10% off. 1 year is pretty much the price. It's $4.95 a month. 1 year is the price of a hard drive. And, of course, it's all off-site, so you're very protected. Back up once, back up often, back up off-site with Mozi.com. Now, faster than I can get rid of that Ford Taurus SHO, let's get into the 5 tech things you should know about. Of course, I did have the Ford Taurus SHO for the week. It was an awesome thing. I'm going to be doing a video about it very shortly, so watch out for that. But if you want to try the Ford Challenge, they give you a week to try one of their Ford vehicles. And you can drive it around. And I'd say take the challenge. If anything, you're saving your car a little bit of wear and tear. Take it on a big trip. See what happens. So take that Ford Challenge. All right, let's get into number 5. This is kind of sciencey, techy, whatever you want to call it. Apparently, last night at about 10 o'clock, they had a big meteor went right past the Midwest. I personally did not see it. It lit up the sky in Iowa. It lit up the sky in Illinois to the point where it looked like dusk rather than nighttime. So it was pretty amazing. But what I can tell you is that on Sunday, I was driving down to Iowa with a friend of mine in the Ford Taurus SHO, and we did see a similar meteor. Not as bright as that one, but it was also a different meteor. Are we going to have a preemptive meteor shower? Is this going to be Armageddon coming up? Probably not. It's just a fluke thing. You might see some aftershocks, so keep an eye on the upward sky, because you might see some shooting stars. You'll have to make some wishes. Twitter wants your money. Twitter wants your money. Twitter wants your money. No. What's happening here is Twitter is going to be splitting up. They're going to actually start their ad revenue idea. Basically, they're calling it 2 pillars. The first pillar is, of course, sponsored tweets, which means every so many tweets you'll actually get a sponsored ad in there. The other pillar is, hey, if you don't want those ads, you can pay for your account. You can have a corporate account or a commercial account, I guess they would call it. So you got 2 levels to do it here. The implementation will happen shortly, but I don't think there's a time frame on that. The real question is, how is that going to work for other companies that have built their business models around Twitter and that API? Is that going to affect them majorly, or is it not going to be as much of a big deal? You got a website and you got Twitter all over your website. You start seeing those ads. Should you get a penny for every time that those ads pop by? Because it is on your website, not on their systems, although technically it is on their systems. So, but the bigger question is, will you move away from Twitter? Because a lot of people don't like ads. In fact, some of the ads that I put on, I get emails sometimes that say, hey, why do you have to run that ad? It's like, because I have to. Because I have to make money. It's all about making money, folks. But we try and keep the ads to a minimum. I'm pretty sure Twitter will do the same thing. I still think that they're on that business model where sponsored ads will be few and far between, but they'll make a pretty penny off of whatever they do. All right, Facebook has implemented a new thing. It's called the Safety Center. And what it is, it's not really a, hey, you got a virus. And you don't get the virus. You don't click on that stuff. It's more about learning over action. And that's what we need to do in today's malware world. Antivirus can do only so much. Everything else, you can only do so much without somebody just saying, hey, I want to learn a little bit more about this thing from Nigeria, whatever. You got to be conscious about what you click on. It's in email, in Twitters, in Facebook, in whatever you do. So Facebook launched the Safety Center, which is basically a big learning center, videos and audio and text on what you should be looking for, what you shouldn't be clicking on, what's a scam, what's not a scam, so on and so forth. This is a great step. I like the way that Facebook decided to do this simply because of the fact that we don't need another thing that says, oh, we're working on it. We see a problem, we're working on it. They're saying, we see a problem, this is how to avoid it. And I think this is a great step for Facebook. So watch out for the Safety Center. You should visit the Safety Center and see what you've been clicking on that could be harmful to your computer. In this corner, we got Apple Mac. The other corner, we have Adobe. Well, apparently with Apple's new OS 4.0, they've kind of changed some of their rules, their regulations. Section 3.3.1 says you cannot use other languages, which means that when you developed Apple iPhone or iPad device programs, you used either C compiler, JavaScript, or some other language, as long as it didn't have undefined APIs, anything that could be considered bad, never really been tested, so on and so forth. Well, now they're saying in section 3.3.1 you cannot use other languages, you can only use JavaScript or a certain form of C. There's different forms there, and you can check out which forms if you're a developer. But that brings a lot of question to especially the third-party companies that let you make iPhone apps, and then they turn around and put it into the development area. Will that affect you? Now, there's a couple companies that are getting affected because they're using a programming language other than the JavaScript, other than the Cs. There are some companies that don't get affected. But bottom line is some business models get affected. The biggest business model that's getting affected is Adobe and their Flash Player. They're starting to think, hey, maybe we should put together a lawsuit. I kind of agree. I think that the FCC should also step in and take a look at how they're doing their practices. Or is it the FTC? I always get that mixed up. FTC, FCC, they're pretty much the same company. The European Union, of course I'm going to get 500 emails saying, no, they're not the same. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. But anyway, the whole point is Adobe's looking to put together a lawsuit because they're getting excluded from the iPhone, even though they have something for the iPhone that they could use. All right, finally, let's talk a little bit of Microsoft and the Microsoft Kin. Now, Microsoft, last year they bought a company called Danger, and Danger had a smartphone called the Sidekick. And if you remember correctly, about 6 to 8 months ago, the Sidekick, the data just completely went kaput on the servers. A lot of people lost data if they rebooted the phone. Well, that was then, this is now. Now we have this little device. It's kind of, they're calling it the smartphone, dumb phone, I guess you could say. It's a smartphone, but it's not really a smartphone. It's not like an iPhone. I can't put apps on it. I don't have much on here except for social networking. I can do the Facebooks, I can do the MySpaces, I can do the Twitters, I can do the whatever else comes out in the flavor. That's the Kin and the Kin 2. Now the Kin has 4 gigabytes of memory, has a 5 megapixel camera, and runs the Zoom software, and has mono, I think it's mono in the ears. Kin 2, however, is the 8 gigabyte model. It's got an 8 megapixel camera, it runs the Zoom software, and it runs in stereo. Which one would I choose? I think I'd choose the Kin, simply because it doesn't look like a compact. Just kind of cleaning up here. Anyway, there's no apps, like I said, there's no games, social networking, but of course I bet you there'll be social networking games that you can play, so that's not a big deal. The price is the big concern. Are they going to be charging the price of an iPhone? I would never buy this phone if it was the price of an iPhone. I would buy this phone if it was pretty much free with a 2-year contract. I'm thinking that's where they're trying to go with this. You know, $1 for this smartphone right here for a 2-year contract. Think of it as the McDonald's dollar menu of phones. You want some fries with that? I'd love some fries. Here, have a Kin, or for $2 more, you can have a Kin 2. Supersize that puppy. And that's the 5 tech things that you should know about. My name is Jeffrey Powers, www.geekazine.com, www.tvazine.com, wikazine.com, and all the other ones. Go over to geekazine.com to check all that out. For the 5 tech things you should know about, my name is Jeffrey Powers. Until next time, take care.